Today's Tanya for the second day of Elul, Beis Elul, is in Igeres HaKedesh. It's Siman Yud, the 10th letter. It's on Daf Kuf Tes Vav Amud Aleph, and the number at the bottom of the page is 442. Beginning of the paragraph. The Rebbe has been saying that just as the mitzvahs that are spiritual mitzvahs, as for example love of God and fear of God, have to be limited, they have to be finite, otherwise the human being would not be able to take it. As it says by Matan Torah, that Parcha Nishmasan, that the Jews expired, they passed out because of the fear that they experienced. So the love and the fear have to be finite in order for a human being to contain it. The same is true also with the godliness. Within every mitzvah, it has to come through tzimtzum and gvura, even though it originates in chesed, but it has to come through a tzimtzum and through a limit in order to be contained and in order for the human being to be able to handle it. Which means that coming from above, it comes in a limited and restricted form. Because the mitzvahs were given to us through clothing them first in the attribute of gvura, which means restricting the light and limiting it. That's why most of the mitzvahs have a size and a limit. And the emphasis here is not that it has a limit because it is physical, but that it is physical with a limit because it comes originally in a limited form from above. That even in Torah, the way it is above, the mitzvah is already limited. So it's not the physical world that puts the limit on it. It's that God puts a limit on it in order that it should be acceptable to the physical world. So we see, for example, Eira Chatzitzis, that the length of the tzitzis have to be Yud Beis Geidlin, 12 thumbs, the width of 12 thumbs. V'hatfilin, the size of the tefillin have to be etzba'ayim al etzba'ayim, the width of 2 fingers by 2 fingers, umerubois dafke, and they have to be square, necessarily square, and not with 5 corners or with 6 corners. V'halulav, and the lulav has to be dalet tvachim, 4 hand breadths. V'hasukkah zayin tvachim, the sukkah has to be 7 hand breadths. V'hashefa tefach, and the shefa has to be 1 hand breadth. V'hamikveh mem sa, the mikveh has to contain 40 sa, 40 measures of water, and not 41 or 42. V'chein b'karbones, and the same is also true in the sacrifices that were brought in the Beis Hamikdash. Yesh lehem shir mitzumtzam lizman. There, in the sacrifices, the size that is limited, or the dimension that is limited, is the dimension of time. K'mei kvosim b'nei shana. The sheep have to be a year old. The elim b'nei shtayim. And the goats or the rams have to be 2 years old. Uparim and the calves also have to have a certain age. The same is also true in tzedakah and in charity in general. With his money, although tzedakah gemilas chasadim is one of the 3 pillars on which the world stands, so it's utterly necessary for the existence of the world, yet there is a limit. Kindness is one of the ingredients with which the world is created, and therefore always dependent on it, so that kindness, charity, gemilas chasadim, is one of the ingredients that supports the world, one of the pillars on which the world stands. Afilu hachi yesh lo shir kotzev chemesh lemitzvah min hamuvchar u'maiseh lemitzvah beinanis. Even so, the mitzvah of tzedakah also has its dimension, its size, that if you want to do the mitzvah in the highest, in the fullest form, you give 1/5 of your earnings. And if you want to do it in an ordinary form, kind of a middle measure, that you give a tenth of your earnings, and so on. And this is called world, the kindness of the world. Pirish chesed keil kol hayim. And that is the meaning of the statement. The kindness of God is all day. What does it mean that it's all day? That it's in time, that it's limited in time. And it's clothed in the worlds, the higher worlds and the lower worlds. Through the arousal here below. In other words, when we give tzedakah, he mitzvahs hat tzedakah, chesed she'esu, b'nei adam zeim zeh, the kindness and the tzedakah that people do for each other, that's what arouses and brings God's kindness into the world as well. And because the world is limited and finite, like the distance between heaven and earth is 500 years of travel, etc. And the same distance exists also between one heaven and the next. And the age of the world is also limited. It is 6,000 years. That's why even the mitzvah of tzedakah and kindness, which is in Torah, is also given a limit. As with all other mitzvahs of Torah. And this limit is given from above, as we said before, so that the mitzvah can come down into this world. So that although the mitzvah of tzedakah is essential for the existence of the world, it's one of the pillars on which the world stands, even so, it has to be limited, it has to be finite in order to be part of the world. And this is all, as the Rebbe will say in tomorrow's shir, this is all true if you're doing the mitzvah of tzedakah. But if you're doing tzedakah as part of tshuva, then it's a whole different story, as we'll see tomorrow. In today's Hayom Yom, for the second day of Elul, for Beis Elul, the Rebbe writes that Jews are called Eretz Chayfetz. In Malachi, in the Navi, Jews are described as Eretz Chayfetz, a desirable land, which means that in the Jew there are objects that are precious, such as the love that a Jew has for God and the fear that he has for God and good character traits. And just as these valuable objects are found in the earth, exist in the earth, and they need only to be uncovered, the same is true also that the revelation, revealing all these good traits that exist in the Jew, depends only on having someone arouse them. And it is certain that in all parts of the earth there are wells of living water underneath the earth. The difference is only that in one place the water is closer to the surface, and in other places it's deeper, and therefore it all depends on the digger of the wells. It depends on his patience and his dedication. And since will is the higher power that rules and commands all the other powers and forces them to do and to act according to its will, according to its instruction, therefore the main effort in Avodah is to arouse the will, the proper will, that it should have the effect and do what it has to do with all the other kaiches, with all the other faculties in oneself and in one's friend.